What's up, everybody? It's Realistic with Realistic Productions doing another tutorial for SoundOracle.net. So last week what we did was we went over some bass lines, fundamentals of what we could do to boost and cut. And if you remember in the video, I said that I was also going to be doing a separate video on synth bass. And that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be doing more like a bass synth this time because the frequencies are a little similar, but there are also a couple things that are different. So we're just going to go over what to boost and what to cut. All right, let's dive in.
All right, so I got Pro Tools open up here, but as I always say, these techniques and tips will work in any DAW, and if you're capable of it, go ahead and open up your DAW of choice. You'll find that you learn a lot more if you do this along with me versus trying to remember it for later. So what we're going to be focusing on today is synth bass. And this is going to have a lot of the same similarities that we saw when we did the 808 fundamental and the baseline fundamental, but there are just a couple little different things to consider when working with synth bass. That's why I wanted to do one just targeting this one, just in case this is what you were looking for. Anyways, pull up some EQs here, throw it on here. I got two different ones to kind of show you with to go through the fundamentals. And also too, if you're really interested in stuff with synth bass, you should check out the tutorial that we have on using multi-band saturation with your bass. It can work for 808s, bass lines. It can work with a lot of things. It can actually work on your master channel too, but the video is just targeting bass. Definitely a way to really get your bass to pop and everything. So yeah, let's focus here, and I just got a little simple bass line going here with the synth bass. So one of the areas as far as when we're looking for things that we can cut is this low end way down here. You know, a lot of that's just rumble, and I would not recommend doing that. Don't put a low cut on there. I would just put a low shelf just to kind of duck out a little bit of the rumbling. You'll find that it does make the mix a little bit clearer just because maybe speakers can't hear this, but what it'll do is it creates this into harmonic distortion, and it will double that, and then that brings it to 32. A lot of speakers cannot handle 32 hertz, so it doubles that, and then it just keeps doubling it again until the speaker can handle it. So it can definitely create a lot of buildup. So I sometimes like to just duck that down a little bit, and you'll notice too, you know, obviously if we had a sub, we might hear a little subtle difference, but when we listen to it like this, see, I'm not really changing it. So it is good to kind of duck that out a little bit. And then a lot of times too with synth bass, you get this higher end here that usually doesn't need to be in the mix. And I'll show you that too. You'll see that a lot of it is not going to change the sound of it. So for the most part, you know, we didn't hear the sound being changed, and so we're cutting from 5,000 hertz all the way up. So that's usually pretty good to get rid of too. And then too, when you're dealing with bass too, you got to figure out what the dominant sub frequency is going to be in the mix. So this can be different for every single situation. You know, you might not do these same techniques in every single song or with or different bass lines, but sometimes maybe the kick is what should be the dominant sub force, or maybe there's also an 808 going on in there for some reason, and so maybe that might be the dominant force. So if that's the case, then you would do somewhat of a cut. But for this sake right here, I'm going to assume for this project that the dominant sub frequency will be this little sub baseline here. All right, so then some other areas to consider for cutting are going to be in this area that we usually find for bass, usually between 100 and 125. So in this one, I'm hearing the area's more around 129. I'll solo that out for you too, let you hear it. So it's just that buildup right there that resonates and causes some distortion. And then to another area usually to consider for cutting is going to be between 200 and 250. So in this particular one, 195, and like I said, everything bass is different, and don't take these words as gospel because I said between 2 and 250, but in this particular one, the buildup was more at 195. But it does get you in the general ballpark, so then you at least know where to boost or cut, and then some areas of where the fundamentals are going to be for a lot of these synth bass lines is going to be between 60 and 80 hertz. So if you're trying to get just a little bit more oomph to it, a little bit more sub to it, a little bit more bump, that's usually the area where you're going to want to consider to boost. And then I'll just zero the frequency out and do a little scope through so you can hear it by itself. So in this particular one, with the particular headphones that I'm wearing to do this tutorial, I'm hearing a little bit more around 75 hertz for that bump. So that's kind of where that punch is. And then another area to consider for cutting, that for boosting, that's usually pretty important, is going to be between the 800 and 1200 area right here. And this is where you'll get a lot of that high end, the excitement of it, so that presence of the synth bass. And definitely this is an area where if you want it to cut through on cheaper speakers or smartphones or earbuds, this is definitely that area that can bring that excitement. So yeah, those are the areas where you want to consider to boost and cut, and I just got a different sounding one here. I'll just show you that real quick of what you could possibly do in that area to boost or cut it. So yeah, just real quick, kind of cleaned it up and just brought some excitement to some other areas. Hopefully you got a lot out of this tutorial. I know it was a short one, but just wanted to run through some different options for synth bass. And like I said too, we do have a tutorial on using multi-band saturation on your synth bass or your 808s. It can really bring a lot of excitement, can really help it punch through.
So I'm hoping that you got a lot out of this tutorial today. Hopefully there was some information that was useful. If you're getting a lot out of this but you want to see more, please feel free to comment below. Let us know what kind of tutorials that you want to see in the future, and Oracle and I can definitely make that happen. We're always trying to find the content that you want to see. If you're liking what you're hearing from me, you can find me everywhere on social media at Realistic Productions. You can find me at the web, realisticproductions.net. You can find my man SoundOracle everywhere at SoundOracle. And if you're looking for the best 808s, the best kicks, the best snares with the craziest loops and samples you can find on the internet right now, go to soundoracle.net. All right, till next time.